Okay, so you use spirituality to bypass your feelings. Feelings. Let's handle that, okay? All right. So, one of the first reasons why, and I could definitely relate, I'm feeling right away that you use spirituality to bypass your feelings is because you've gotten so good at using your mind to manifest. Okay? All right. We're going to dig into this and we're going to handle it today. Okay? All right. So, let's pick a card before I go all the way in. Okay? Feelings. I've got all these feelings. Feelings. What shall I do with all these feelings? Feelings. What will I do with all these feelings? All right. On point. On point. What is something? Name something about you that took years to become effortless. Okay? Name something about you that took years to become effortless. Exactly what I was picking up. Okay? So, we'll start with story time. Okay? And I'll tell you a little bit about myself. How I know what I'm talking about on this topic. Okay? From a little girl, I didn't know I was psychic, right? But I knew something. I just knew that what feels right and when something feels off, right? And then I also knew everything worked out for me. I didn't know that until I got with a sucker who introduced to me this frequency of things not working out. And because everything always worked out for me, this person was trying to convince me that pretty much it was only a matter of time because nothing ever worked out for him. And then I started being like, oh man, well maybe he's right? Okay? But once I had my awakening and I got back in alignment, I was like, oh yeah, everything does work out for me, right? And it's because of that intention. It's because of that belief. But here's where I was off, okay? And this is where I'm sensing you might be, because I was a baby, honey. I was a baby. I was just a novice. And them kids, they be thinking they know everything. Seriously. Oh, man. Oh, cute little novice baby Juanine. Cute little baby God Juanine. That's what I be thinking about. And now I'm Queen Mama Moon because I've learned some things, okay? And so what about this is important is I had gotten so good at having something in my mind and then letting it manifest until there was a person that I was in a relationship with. He still doesn't have a name, okay? Because it's over. But he did help me to recognize a place where I needed to be balanced, okay? And what he helped me to acknowledge is my spiritual strengths are really, really strong. But the part that needed to be balanced was me being human. Being a spiritual being in a human body. So not everything is going to can I override with spirituality, right? I had been writing on grace versus doing the work. I had been writing on spiritual steam and spiritual fumes instead of ensuring that I would always have a reserve of energy to pull from. Okay? I know you're getting this. And so, also, yes, we are gods. Okay? We are the living God in human form. But it's not just so we can brag and be like, I'm God, fool. I mean, come on. Because if you're doing that, you're not God because you're not in the right frequency, period. Okay? But it's because we hold a level of integrity, a level of righteousness, a level of consistent frequency to build a bridge for others to be welcomed into so that they can become their own righteous God self as well. And although we might have mastered manifesting, like this was me, although I'm still learning how to master this, okay? I don't have it all. I'm still learning how to master this in every area, mind, body, spirit, family, and business, okay? But where I'm at is eons away from where I was at 10 years ago, okay? But what I've learned is it's important to bridge in the human being with the God being so that I can maintain being human. There are ways of life to co-create and to co-be with other humans on this earth. Now, in the new earth, when we all rise to our God frequency, there are going to be new rules, new laws, new ways of being, okay, that don't require as much work and effort that we have to do now. A lot of the work and effort and systems that we have to create is to manage our God being and the human being form, okay? Because we as gods are not here alone. We live with all kinds of other beings in this realm and the other dimensions that we travel to, okay? And so when we learn how to balance our ways of being spiritual and our ways of being human, it helps us to travel further, to reach more people, and to become more stable in any environment that we be in. Okay? So although you might have mastered a specific practice in manifesting with your hands, what's the next level of that you need to learn how to do, right? Like, or maybe a better example is learning how to manifest with your mind, right? You can think and maybe the skies change, right? You can think and maybe you can call animals to you or communicate with them. You can think and you can send messages to someone or have a conversation without words, right? The next level of that is manifesting with the same effort and power with your hands. That's where I'm at right now because I'm really good at multidimensional mastery, right? But in this physical realm, because I've spent a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of practices, I have like my doctoral degree. Okay, I am surely a philosopher in the spiritual realm, right? But in this physical realm, I have work to do. That's just real talk. I have work to do. So I'm at a novice level when it comes to a lot of physical manifestations because I spent so much time in the spiritual realm. So now I have to become balanced. And that's the same thing for you. So sometimes we use spirituality to bypass our feelings because that's where your strength is at. But it's not an excuse when it comes to mastering the God in you. When it comes to mastering the God you. All right? You have to learn how to face the feelings, understand them, have a place for them, and know what has value and what's a liability, and properly sort them out versus just pushing them away, pushing them under the rug, like a lot of our parents and grandparents and their parents and grandparents have done with issues in the bloodline, right? They just sweep it under the rug and they don't deal with it. In this new world, in order for us to even have the golden copper DNA that we need to have, okay, we have to face it and become strong and refined intentionally, okay? So here's a prime example that I was talking to actually with a client yesterday, all right? And that is that sometimes, like for instance, when I was using cannabis at the beginning of my spiritual awakening, right? To bypass feelings. Like if I felt my frequency dropping low, especially at like really important times where it could be detrimental, I would use cannabis to help me bypass that frequency. I don't regret it and I don't deny that it was what I needed at the time. However, here's the issue. When I did that, I kept doing it and I kept doing it and I kept doing it and I kept doing it until it became an addiction. An addiction to aligning my frequency. And anytime we need something, we need someone, we need anything outside of ourselves to bring us into alignment, it's an addiction. And then we make that thing our God, and that is a sin. Because that means you are not taking advantage of your birthright. You're not taking advantage of your true power as God, and now you've given it away, and you're becoming lesser than you are, and inviting lower frequencies into your life, which diminishes your value, it diminishes your power. It diminishes your light. So what I learned to do was, when I noticed this, because you know when you're out of balance. Okay, that's the truth. You know when you're making something your God. You know when you're tiptoeing into an addiction, because you will say to yourself, this feels druggy, right? I'm going in. I know. But we need some, who's going to say it to you? I'll tell you the truth. I'll tell you the truth because I love you. You know it. And that is a sign. That's your nervous system telling you something's out of balance. Something needs to be checked. Okay? So when I had that feeling, those druggy feelings, the feelings of something was off, girl, why you're using cannabis more and more and more and more and more, when before you might have only needed like one puff or one edible. Now you're consuming like the whole thing in one sitting. Why? Because you're making this thing your God, and you're making it to where you can't evolve or achieve a certain frequency without it. I don't believe that. Before I ever used cannabis, I always had this feeling that if a substance can activate an experience in you, there must be a way to do it without it. There must be a way to activate that same experience without the substance. As a little girl, I always thought that. And so because I had that thought at such a young age, when I had that feeling, I'd be like, okay, well, what do I do? And this is really important because this does have to do with spirituality. It's no coincidence that a lot of people who have spiritual awakenings or tap into spiritual truths or new dimensions have accessed it through drugs, have accessed it through natural substances, shrooms, cannabis, alcohol, right? Those are the ones I'm going to name because all the other ones, even alcohol, trash, right? To me. But there are certain substances that I believe that in a controlled environment, they have spiritual purposes that can help with responsible use. Okay? And I wasn't using it responsibly. So what happened is I took myself, because I am a scientist also, I took myself through my own tests over a period of years, okay? And I said, okay, first off, I had to fast from it when I realized that I was getting into druggy behaviors, okay? So I had to fast from it. I completely cut myself off. And I would go a day. I kind of weaned myself off because I was addicted, right? So I might go a day, 2, few months, a year, right? And then I might have another circumstance that comes up and it's like, man, my frequency is so low. This situation is so hard. I just need a little help, God, right? And so I would use the cannabis, but I would not forget my previous experience, right? And then what I would do is I would use the cannabis in an ultimately conscious, aware state. So instead of just using it to escape, I would say, what is happening with my body? Which parts of my chakras are being activated? Why do I suddenly feel more clear in thought when I didn't feel clear in thought before I activated the substance? And what I realized is I needed a specific type of cannabis. I needed a specific amount. Too much would cause me to get out of alignment, right? And also, when I would do it under specific regulations in a controlled environment like that with myself, I would suddenly get the idea to drink more water. Oh, you need some more greens. This is what it would tell me. And this is why it's such a spiritual thing when you're in the right frequency, right? Get up and clean your house, right? And I'm like, oh. So then when I would feel myself getting too attached to the substance, I would fast again. And then the next time I would feel like my frequency was dropping, instead of going to the cannabis, what I would do is I would say, what happened the last time during my controlled scientific experiment, right? Oh, I got up and I started working out. I got up and I drank water. I suddenly started watching martial arts things or whatever to encourage me. I started learning how to move my limbs. Oh, I had to stretch. Oh, I went into a deep meditation for 30 minutes. Oh, I cleaned my house. And so then I would do those things and I would activate my own natural high. And then there are levels to this, okay? And so this is why it's important not to use spirituality, okay, to bypass your feelings. Or AKA use substances to bypass your feelings, because you are fully capable of having dominion over your creations, including your feelings, in a righteous manner. You just have to have that belief, and then the dedication and commitment and responsibility to do what you need to empower yourself with your godly divine birthright. Okay? Feelings. There are so many feelings. feelings, so many feelings. What will I do with these feelings? Okay. We have 3 cards. I'm going to read them all to you. I trust my inner intuition. I trust my intuition and inner wisdom. I give and receive love freely and openly. I'm creative and open to new experiences. These are affirmations you can say to activate your natural power. Okay? And balancing your spirituality with your human being and learning how to activate your lifestyle is one that doesn't run from emotions or run from feelings, but know that they're there to help you ignite your next level of mastery of God being you and you being God. Okay, here are 3 journal prompts to help you face your feelings. Face this truth, okay, and handle it. It doesn't have to be the way that I do, but you can learn how to handle it in your own way and in your own right, okay? Number 1, what emotion do I try to rise above instead of feel through? Okay. Number 2, how do I use light language to avoid honest grief, anger, or disappointment? I'm not saying light language, tongues, whatever you want to call it, is not real. But sometimes, you just go into that because you don't want to deal with the real feelings. Okay? Number 3, what does grounded spirituality look like in my actual messy life? All right? I know feelings can be tough, especially when you are super sensitive. I know. I also know that running from them doesn't solve anything. It just diminishes your power. And I also know that when you are determined to rise above anything that makes you feel defeated, you can. You know why? Because you are a human being God. And who is greater than God? What is greater than God? It's up to you to activate that frequency, though, dear. So remember, we don't hide from the truth. We handle it. Sovereign.